Welcome to the Next Gen Show. My name's Benjamin Brain, and it's my mission to share with you the stories and experiences of next generation owners, leaders, and entrepreneurs from family-run businesses around the world. On today's show, I had the pleasure of being joined by Chloe Wright. So Chloe started out by almost reluctantly helping out in a number of the family businesses after she'd finished up at university, while she took some time to figure out where she wanted to take her own career. But she ended up sticking around, and since then she's gone on to launch a number of her own businesses with her partner Louis, most notably a successful fulfillment business and Avocardo, an online sustainable greeting card shop which plants a tree for every card that's bought. From day one, Chloe and Louis' intention was to build businesses to support their lifestyle and not have their lives dictated by the business. And because of that, in 8 weeks' time, they'll be setting off around the world, jet setting with no return date, while still maintaining complete control of the business remotely wherever they are on the planet. So to find out how they managed to do that, to discover the perks of having a successful business coach for a father, and to soak up some really brilliant insights that Chloe shares from her business journey so far, which is only just getting started, let's jump into another brilliant interview with a trailblazing next generation entrepreneur. Let's get started. Okay, so we're joined by Chloe on the Next Gen show this morning. Thank you for joining us, Chloe, and putting some time aside. I know you are a very busy lady at the moment.
Thank you for having me. I'm really looking forward to it.
I'm sure this is going to be another great episode, knowing just a little bit about what you do. So before we talk about the now and everything that you've got going on and some really exciting plans I know you've got planned for the not too distant future, I always like to take it back to the start just to get a flavor of how things were before you started your career. So can you cast your mind back and talk a little bit about what was the next thing that you did once you left school? In fact, we'll start there. Did you go to further education? Did you just jump straight into the family business?
Yeah, so I went to uni actually straight after school. I wanted to go to Edinburgh Uni. I was really keen. That was where I had my heart set, and I ended up in Manchester. And I'd never been to Manchester before, and it was quite kind of gutted, to be honest, that I got into.
Oh.
Yeah, so I was like, oh no, don't really want to go there. I really want to go to Edinburgh, and I absolutely fell in love with Manchester, and that's where I studied. And I did English language at Manchester Met. And yeah, so I had the best 3 years ever.
And what was it specifically about Edinburgh that had you wanting to go there so much?
I'd just visited a few times, and I really kind of romanticized it in my mind, and I could kind of picture myself living there. And I mean, it is a really lovely place, and I still like to visit. But actually, now I'm so glad I ended up in Manchester, because a lot of opportunity came out of that, and friends for life, and I had a really, really good time.
Okay, and so eventually you ended up at Manchester. You studied English language. At that time, was that with a specific intention of a career that you were thinking about going into once you'd left university, or was it just something that you were good at and you enjoyed?
That's a good question, because a lot of people, when they hear I studied that, they used to say, "Oh, are you going to be a teacher then? Is that what you want to do?" And to be perfectly honest with you, I would really not like to be a teacher at all. So I used to kind of really quickly shut that down and say no, because what the reason I did it was, yeah, because I was really interested in the English language. I really enjoyed studying it while I was in sixth form. I wasn't quite ready to kind of jump into any sort of career, or I didn't quite know exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something to do with business, but I just thought English language was a good generic degree to have, I suppose, and I did enjoy it. Although, to be honest, I spent more time working in my part-time jobs than I actually spent at uni, and that's kind of why my experience was so good, because I had some really good jobs while I was there.
What was your first job?
The first one, well, my first ever job was when I was younger, but when I moved to uni, my first job, I worked for Michael Kors.
Okay.
So I was in fashion, and I made loads of really nice friends there. And then I worked at Armani after that. And they both paid commission. So for a student, I was earning quite good money. So I used to just kind of live like a young professional, but I was a student. It was quite weird.
Nice. Sounds like you were living the lifestyle back then. So uni finished. What was the next steps for you then?
So I actually went to Florida and I worked for Walt Disney World.
Wow.
after uni, which was something that I wanted to do since I was 11. And do you know what? To be honest, I'm really glad I went to uni mainly because it opened up that opportunity for me. Because the program that I did with Disney, you can't do it unless you've got a degree. So my degree probably doesn't do that much for me now in my life, apart from the fact that I'm quite good at English, I suppose. But yeah, it allowed me to go and work for Disney, and that was like a dream come true, basically.
And how long did you stay in Florida for at Disney?
So it was just like an internship. So it was just a summer. So I did 4 months.
Okay. And then eventually, how did that lead you? Because your dad had the coaching business.
Yeah.
You joined that. You're still a part of that now, alongside all of these other ventures, which we'll get into a bit further down the line. But how did that transition come from the internship at Disney to then joining the family business?
So I basically, when I finished uni, I had done quite a lot of personal development stuff while I was there, and quite a lot of research into what I might want to do afterwards. And property was something that really kind of caught my eye, and I was quite interested in maybe building a portfolio of investment properties. And I said to my parents, I'd love to do this, but how on earth am I going to get into that with no money really? I'm just kind of working, normal jobs.
Sure.
My dad said to me, well, why don't you come work with me for a bit and learn a bit about business? Because obviously he's a business coach and he's a multiple sort of business owner as well. And he was like, come work with me. You'll learn loads from me. You'll learn loads from our clients. You'll be good at sales because I've always done sales. You'll learn good commission, and then you can start to save to buy a property. So that's kind of how I got into it. But to be honest, I've never wanted to work with my dad
Okay.
or with my family at all.
Okay, there's a couple of subjects that that would be good to go into from that. But I suppose the first thing that springs to mind was you already answered it with what you said then. But when you finished uni, was it something that you'd even considered, even if it was just to sort of tide you over until you'd found a career that you felt was more suitable for you?
Well, yeah, originally I did think it would just be something that would tide me over, and I didn't
Mhm.
think it would be a long-term thing at all.
And what was at the time when you first made that proposition to you, when you just mentioned there that you thought that you'd never work with family, what was the reason for that? Have you seen other people that have gone the same route and it's not turned out so well for them? Or just, the family dynamic of being there 24/7, whether it's at home or being in business?
I guess it was honest answer. I
Honest, yeah.
I thought was a bit of a cop out.
Okay.
So I've grown up in Harrogate, which is like a really nice town. It's quite a wealthy area, and I knew that a lot of people in Harrogate who I grew up with would end up working with their parents at some point. And I used to kind of think, oh God, like that's not really, you're not really working very hard to achieve what you want to achieve. I just thought it was a bit of a cop out. Honestly, I did. Now
Almost
that
like riding on the coattails of somebody else's
yeah,
success sort of feeling. Yeah,
yeah,
okay. Yeah, it's interesting because it seems such an obvious choice for people outside that don't have a family business. Well, why not go and join the family business? But from everybody that I've spoken to so far, it was never really the priority for those that did join the business. Like you said earlier on, it was only to begin with to sort of tide them over until they could find something else. And I suppose a lot of it is down to that internal desire that you want to build something for yourself and not just be viewed as, well, you're only successful because you're working in the family business. So there's definitely some similar themes across myself as well, and a lot of the other people that I've spoken to about that same sort of subject. So how did it go then? You joined the family business, you had these reservations because it wasn't something that you really had thought about before. You wanted to go out there and create something for yourself, which we know, and we'll find out, you've done plenty of since then. But what was it like when you first joined and started working with your dad, especially with it being quite an intimate business? I presume there was your dad doing the coaching and not many other staff involved with that. So it's not like you're going into a huge business where you can sort of blend into the crowd.
yeah, it's a good point. But actually, at the time, my dad still owned another business that he had that he's
Ah,
now
okay.
gone on to sell. And so the office was kind of a combination of the other business that he had, and then he had a separate office next door, which was where he did his coaching stuff. So I was actually in an office full of team
Okay.
who are lovely people. We're still in touch today. In fact, last month we all went for dinner together. But yeah, so I was in like a proper office environment, which was something I'd never been in, obviously, with working in sort of retail and things like that in the past. Um, and yeah, I mean, it was really interesting for me, but I didn't love sitting at a desk all day.
What
Like
was it that you were doing? What was the sort of the number one focus for the
I was
business?
I was always sort of in a business development role.
Okay.
I guess when I first started working with my dad about 4.5 years ago, I was I think I was helping with some bits in his other business as well. So I was doing a lot of answering the phones and speaking to clients and things like that. And as my role progressed and I got older, I did a lot more going out and networking and actually doing more like face-to-face business development.
Okay. What did the business do?
It doesn't sound very interesting, but it was a ventilation company.
Okay.
So we did basically ventilation in properties. Yeah, that's basically what we did.
Okay. And roughly at the time when you joined, how many other people were there already in the business?
Um, Probably about 12, 15 maybe.
Okay, I know it's thinking back a while now as well, so it's always hard to remember exactly how it felt. But when you joined the business as the owner's daughter, how do you think the rest of the team took to that? Was it something like they welcomed you with open arms? Did you feel some sort of hesitation, or oh well, she's the boss's daughter sort of feelings?
Um, well, they were very welcoming to me, and like I say, we still get on now, and in fact, some of the team still work with my dad now in his other business. Um, I think like the culture that both my parents try to kind of ingrain into their businesses is very kind of one big family. Sort of, we're very like open with each other. It's really they kind of knew us really really well. I think Hannah, who's my dad's PA, probably feels like she's part of our family sometimes. To be honest with you, so yeah, I mean, I guess like a lot, and some of them had like seen me grow up, because they've been working with my dad for a long time. So yeah, I don't think it was ever like, oh, she's the boss's daughter sort of thing. Maybe there were occasional jokes about that, but if anything, like my dad just treated me the same as he treated the rest of the team.
And how did you feel about that? Because I find that sometimes as a family member, you do maybe expect to be treated slightly different from the rest of the team that were there, and that can sometimes build a little bit of resentment and a bit of friction. Or did you prefer it to be that way so that you weren't sort of singled out as somebody that was going to be fast tracked quicker than everybody else or get preferential treatment?
I didn't think I would ever deserve preferential treatment or want to be treated differently to anyone, because if anything, I kind of like looked up to them. Like I was just this young kind of girl in the office. They'd all been working for a lot longer than me, and they had more experience. So like yeah, and there was a lady called Jackie who was the manager, the office manager, and like she was kind of who I reported to. So yeah, I never kind of expected to be treated any differently. If anything, I thought my dad would probably be more hard on me than anyone else, because I just would have thought that that would be how he was, but he wasn't. He never has been, to be fair. Um, but yeah, no, I didn't expect anything different, and it felt right that I was treated the same as the rest of the team, and I think that is the right way to do it, to be honest.
And that original perception that you had of people joining family businesses before you actually joined it yourself, of taking the easy way out instead of going out and forging your own career and creating your own legacy, did you still have that feeling once you joined the business, or did that start to die down? Obviously you've gone out and done your own thing since anyway, so there's still obviously a desire to start something for yourself, but did it change your view of working with family?
Yeah, it definitely did change my view. I mean, I think everything in life is always like about expectations, and like if you can adjust your expectations of things, then often your opinion and the way you see things can change. And I guess maybe when I was younger, I had quite naive expectations that I'd walk out of uni and be able to just start this like property empire, and I'd have 20 properties by the time I was 30, which some people do manage to achieve. But I'm also somebody who really likes to, I'm very focused on my like free time, and I'd like to have a lot of fun. And so it wouldn't have been possible for me to do that really. So once my expectations changed and I accepted that I was going to have to work quite hard and like put in the hours and stuff in order to achieve what I wanted to achieve, and working with my dad was a really good way to do that and to learn at the same time, then yeah, my opinion about it changed completely, because it isn't really that different. I mean, there are differences in terms of the fact that the business mattered probably to me more than it did to the rest of the team because it's our family business. But other than that, I don't really see it as a cop out at all anymore. In fact, if anything, there's more pressure on you as a family member if you're working with your family. You want to make them proud. You want to continue, to help run the business and grow the business. There's a lot of expectation on you, I think, from the family. So there's probably more pressure on you than there would be in just like another sort of job role.
Yeah, absolutely. You've gone from obviously a relationship with your parents where it's parents daughter, you now also employee boss. Yeah. Did you have to consciously make any changes to the way that you managed that relationship? Were there any challenges? You're now working with family as well as living with family, and did it affect the relationship in a positive way with spending more time together, or were there moments where it wasn't such a great thing?
To be honest, like me and my dad work really well together, so that was always like a really good thing. I mean, my parents have always owned businesses since I was born. Before I was born, my dad started his business, first one, at 21. So like I've always been in that like family business environment since I was, tiny. Mm-hmm. So it didn't feel like, I always felt like I knew what was going on in the business anyway. I knew how the business worked. I was always learning. I mean, my dad's a coach now, so you can imagine like he was always coaching me and my sister since we were young. So it wasn't like I was kind of shut off to the business and then suddenly a part of it. I felt like I was a part of it anyway before I was even kind of working with them.
Yeah.
So no, it didn't feel like there was a big change at all, really. It just felt like, oh, okay, now I'm just on the payroll. Do you know what I mean? I've always known all this stuff anyway. I've always sat around the dinner table and spoken about work with you guys and asked you questions about how the business is going and even given my ideas and stuff since I was really young. So it was just a transition from being not paid to being paid, I suppose.
Okay. And that the plan of you being in the business was, once you joined, I presume that your own expectation was still that, you're an entrepreneur at heart, especially with the ventures that you're involved with now, which again, we'll talk to a little bit later on. But did you make it clear that your intention, even once you'd started, was still to peel off and do your own thing one day? And was your dad under that impression as well? And how much planning and conversation went into, for you, Chloe, like what's next for you in your dad's business? Or was it just literally you were there in that position working on something in the sidelines until it took off and you could leave and start on your own?
That's a really interesting question, because with all my dad's team, he's really passionate about helping people to get to where they want to be in life, not just within the business. So a lot of our team have gone on to start their own businesses. Two of our team members actually bought my dad's business off him.
Wow.
And he has always kind of supported all of the team in whatever they want to do. And if that means not working for him anymore or not working with him anymore, then that's great. He'll support them in whatever way he can to help them get to that next step. Because, you don't own people and they don't owe you anything, I guess. So, and it was the same with me. He has always said, like, I'll support you to get to wherever you want to be next. So it wasn't necessarily like, how will I progress within his businesses, but more how will I progress as a person who wants to build my own wealth and build my own sort of businesses for myself.
Sure.
And now that it's coming to the end of working with him in this business, for now, I'm sure we'll work together. I mean, there is another business that has just recently started that me and my sister are going to be involved in as well. But now it's coming to the end of working with him in this business. He's actually really excited for me and for Louis, my partner, and what's kind of coming next for us. And he coaches us in our business. So he'll always be involved and always be there to sort of support us, I think.
Yeah, no, that sounds excellent. I always think, one of the big benefits for me of being in the coaching, consulting, mentor environment is that I'll be able to pass those lessons on to my own children to help them become successful. I've got an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a nearly a 2-year-old. So it's obviously been the case for you, having a father that's has that mindset that, can really help people to grow a business and pass those lessons on to you as his daughter. If you could think back from even before you started in business, you said that he'd been coaching you and your siblings. Was it siblings or just sister? Or
That's my sister.
Yes, since before you'd started your business career. If you could pick maybe one lesson that you really felt that he instilled in you that's had the greatest advantage to you so far, is there one in particular that springs to mind?
I mean, yeah, there's loads, but I suppose one that does spring to mind is that basically, if I know are the two most expensive words in business. So if your attitude is I know, your cup's kind of full, you can't learn anymore. You're as successful as you're ever going to be. But if you have an open mind to always learn more, to accept that you might have been wrong about something, to grow, to develop, then you're going to do really well. And I suppose another lesson that he's taught me that's kind of on the same level as that for me, that's really stuck with me, is that I think it was a Jim Rohn quote, or maybe Zig Ziglar, one of those amazing kind of gurus. They said, you can have everything you want in life as long as you help enough other people get what they want. And I've definitely implemented that into everything that I do. I'm always trying to look for opportunities to help other people. And to be honest, I'm not looking for anything in return, because I believe that probably will come back to me, and it has come back to me in lots of ways. But also it just feels good to help other people. So that's kind of, they're like two things, I guess, that he's kind of always taught me.
Yeah, and I can tell that, especially for that second one, just in the conversation that we had before we started this interview, you were already looking for ways in which you can connect me to other people. So clearly that's, a genuine part of who you are. You don't just talk the talk, but you walk the walk as well. And it comes across, most definitely.
That's good. I'm glad that you can see that. And I think sometimes I've actually had genuinely people say to me, what's the catch? Why are you offering me all these introductions? I made an introduction to a guy and it brought him like £90,000 worth of business. And he was just a bit like confused. He was like, why have you done this? Like, I don't understand. What do you want in return? And I was like, I mean, I guess you can just tell people about my business if you want, but otherwise go and enjoy your £90,000 worth of business, and I hope you do well. I guess it doesn't. You don't need anything in return. If somebody wants to help you back, then great, and if not, then you've helped them, and that's a good thing.
So if you were to summarize that into your own lesson to pass on to other people, but maybe being a bit presumptuous, but if you were to have children in the future and you wanted to instill that in them, what would be, the Jim Rohn quote that you've mentioned summarizes it pretty well, but how would you teach it to somebody? How would you teach it to somebody else? How would you make that statement, as if you be like this, it's going to benefit you?
Oh, the internet cut out a little bit then.
Oh, okay. So that personality trait that you've just talked about, that your father worked hard to instill in you, that you say has served you so well, how would you summarize that to somebody else? If somebody were to ask you, Chloe, how do I need to be successful in business? What would you tell them about that specific trait that you've just described?
I would say always give before you ask. So that's kind of, the way that I would summarize it.
Nice, good answer.
Be kind of looking to give to other people as much as you can before you ask anything of them in return. People are way more likely to want to give you something or help you if you've already gone in there with kindness and kind of generosity, and also like kind of broken down any barriers, and it just like really warms a relationship if you're always looking to help other people, I guess. So give before you ask is what I would do.
Great advice. So what was the next steps for you then in your own business journey? You'd been working with your father in the ventilation business. What was next for you?
So as in what happened next after kind of I mean, I met Louis, my boyfriend now, and he was interested in starting his own business, which I quite liked about him. And we talked, and he met my dad, and like after a few conversations with my dad, he left his job, which was, he was a personal trainer, which was actually where we met at the gym. And he left his job and started his own business, and I kind of supported him quite a lot with that. So although it was kind of Louis's business, I was always in the background in the evenings till 11 o'clock at night, talking to him about what, you know, what he could do about this. And me and my dad kind of both were supporting Louis a lot, because we really wanted this to happen for him. And then over time, I got more and more involved in those businesses. And a lot of the things about those businesses were my ideas. I mean, I'm going to give Louis the credit. They are his babies that he's grown, but I have been kind of very involved. So that's kind of, I started running that business with Louis, or being involved with that business with him, alongside working with my dad.
Mm-hmm.
And when the pandemic happened, I realized that I could do my job for my dad, with my dad, in way less time than I used to, because everything was on Zoom. So then I had way more time to work on my other kind of projects that I had going on.
Okay. And those businesses now, you've said already, and we'll get to the reason why that you're leaving your dad's business in a few moments' time. But what's the sort of split now between how much time you spend in your dad's business versus how much time you spend in the other ventures that you've helped to build up with Louis?
I'd probably say right now I'm probably like 50-50.
Mm-hmm.
But going forward, once we start traveling, which is going to happen in the next couple of months, and I tone down the work I do with my dad, it'll become pretty much 100% of my focus will be on those other businesses.
And now that you're also, so you've gone from, well, at the same time working with your dad to now also working alongside your partner. How have you managed to, and maybe you're just, obviously you're a naturally likable person and great at managing relationships and communication, but still working alongside your partner can be tough in business. What are some of the things you'd recommend to somebody else that was thinking about jumping into that? Because you can hear horror stories of, oh, I started my business with my partner and it was the worst thing I ever did. But you can also hear amazing stories of how they've gone on to build these amazing businesses and they have a relationship that's better than it was ever. What would your sort of top tips be for working with a partner in business?
You're completely right about like the kind of horror stories of it. And I think like with the coaching business with my dad, we've actually seen people get divorced after realizing that they shouldn't be working together. So there's a common kind of theme, I think, with the couples that work well together and the ones who don't.
Okay.
And for me, the theme that I can see and the pattern that I can see is that it works well when you both bring something different to the table. So if your skill sets are exactly the same, or you're both really like strong in one similar area, I think that's where people clash more.
Okay.
Whereas if somebody is really good at these two elements of the business and somebody's really good at these two elements of the business, that's when it becomes more of like a team effort. And I saw that with my parents growing up, because they've always had businesses together, and my mum's very HR focused and my dad's very salesy and very numbers focused, and he knows how to grow a business. So with Louis and I, it's very similar. We both bring different strengths to the table, which is why we work really well together, and it's probably why our relationship works so well, I guess. But I think my top tip would be, look at your strengths and are you going to clash from day one? Think about that, because if you are, it might be a tricky endeavor, I suppose.
Yeah, no, great advice. It makes total sense, especially having witnessed the good side of it as well. So yeah, I think that's some really good points there. And you've already mentioned you're going to be soon be leaving your father's business and you're going to be fully focused on your own ventures. Can you tell us a bit more about what your plans are for the journey? Because I think that leads to an interesting point that we can dive a bit deeper into. So what's next for you and Louis with the ventures that you've already got?
So, like I mentioned before we started the podcast, Louis and I, in 8 weeks today, are setting off on kind of a very long traveling journey around the world, going to all different sorts of places. We're starting in Canada, so we fly to Toronto. In fact, I'll be on the plane this time in 8 weeks to Toronto. And basically, we've kind of had this plan for a while. We both are really passionate about going and seeing other parts of the world and experience different cultures and things. So we've been planning for the past couple of years to get the business to this point where we can leave it. And we've got a really good team here back in the UK who I fully believe are going to do a great job. And Louis and I are still planning to work while we're traveling. So we're not just going off on one big holiday. We are Monday to Friday, we will still be working, albeit not full-time hours, hopefully sort of 2-3 hours a day, fingers crossed, we'll see how that goes. So yeah, we'll be working, but we'll be kind of quite nomadic for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's the 4-hour work week book, and there's the dream for a lot of business owners, and for a lot of entrepreneurs, it's the reason we start a business, to be able to live the lifestyle that we've always dreamed of. But not many of us ever actually get to achieving it. So it really sounds like you've built a business to support your lifestyle rather than what usually happens, which is your life ends up supporting the business. And you've also managed to do it at what seems to be a really young age. You've clearly got a very mature business head and the right mindset and approach to business. And we were talking earlier, you said that for you guys, it's been, and you mentioned just a few moments ago, you started consciously thinking about making that happen a couple of years ago. So what were the like the shifts in mindset or approach to business, and what were the major things that you had to change that have now enabled you to be able to travel the world, work from wherever you want for a few hours a day on the days of your choice, but still be able to operate, grow and drive, you know, more than multiple thriving businesses? Because to a lot of us, that just seems like an impossible dream.
Yeah, well, you're right about like we kind of, I always think you should design your life as and design the life that you want to live, and then everything else kind of fits in. So I'm all about being like really organized. I mean, my sister, every time she comes to my house, she laughs at me because I've got this spreadsheet open and it's kind of my 10-year plan. And I genuinely do look at it every single day without fail. I'm always updating it. I'm always changing the numbers. I'm always changing my forecast. Everything about it is, it's so organized and planned down to the T. It's not just something that I thought of one day and, you know, it was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And it just happened. It's been very, very like sort of planned. And the shift, you asked me about the shift and what kind of changes we've had to make in order to kind of get to this level. I'd say we've practiced that kind of, I suppose, 4-hour work week. Louis read that book and he's really passionate about it. I think we've kind of practiced that already. So we're already only working a few hours a day now, even though we're not traveling yet. So we've already kind of got ourselves to the point where we know we don't need to work. And don't get me started on the 9 to 5 thing, because I just don't believe that anyone really needs to work. I mean, what are the chances that every single job requires exactly the same amount of time a day? It's just so unrealistic to me. So I've always like believed that you can just be really productive and work kind of smart and not necessarily hard. I hate the word hard work. I hate that. So I suppose we've kind of tried to just be as productive as possible and have set like the times that we are going to work and the times that we're not. I won't take a call. Usually on a Friday, to be honest, I wouldn't be working right now. And this isn't work. This is a really fun like chat.
I hope so.
Of course.
If it feels like work, I'm doing it wrong.
No, it's not. But usually I'd be at the gym, or I'd be going out for a cup of tea with my mum, or I'd be sat in the garden or whatever. So I think it's about like setting boundaries around when you're willing to work and when you're not. And we've kind of been practicing that over the last sort of 12 months. So that now when we set off into 2 months' time, it's not going to be any different. Our workload's not just suddenly going to shrink, if that makes sense. And
yeah,
as well, systemizing the business has been important.
Yeah, well, that leads me on to my next question, and it's almost like a chicken and the egg question. And I think you provide a really good perspective on this, because from the work that you've done with your dad in the coaching business, you've been able to maybe see from the outside the mindsets and approaches and where people go wrong and right in lots of other businesses. Whereas if you only know your own mindset and it's the way you've always done things, then it's hard to identify what's the difference between the two. But some would say, well, have you been able to get to that point of choosing when to work because you've systemized the business, which now allows you to put those boundaries in place? Or was it the fact that because you put those boundaries in place, you had to use that time to systemize the business? Which came first for you? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Such a good question. I guess like my dad's always taught us that systemizing, I mean, he's an action coach, and that's what a lot of action coaches focus on, helping business owners to take a step away from their business and actually sack themselves as the MD, I guess, and not have to work every single day. And a big part of that is systemizing the business. So I guess I've always been taught about that from for a long time. So I always knew, in order to get ourselves out of the business and out of the day-to-day, off the tools, I guess, we had to systemize it. So I think that probably came first, like the knowledge of knowing that we needed to do that. And then at the same time, I don't really like working long hours, so I was not prepared to do that, and I realized that I didn't have to do that. So I set these boundaries and made it work for me. And so I guess they kind of happened like simultaneously, but systemization was always like at the forefront of our plan.
Yeah, I can remember, being in business myself. When I was in the family business, there was a few words and phrases that you always used to hear that became almost like a cliche, that you knew you needed to do it, but you didn't quite know what it actually meant and how to achieve it. So if I was to ask you, like, what's your definition of systemizing your business, what would you say?
That's a really good question.
We're getting tough now. This is where it does start to feel like work.
Well, this is where I'm thinking, if my dad's watching and I don't say the exact
all right.
No, I'm joking, because everyone's got their own way of describing things, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say it's putting it's putting systems in place in order to leverage the business, so that anyone could literally walk into your business any day of the week. They wouldn't even have to ask you one single question. They would know exactly what they needed to do, because you've got all the manuals, all the tools that they need in order to do exactly what they need to do to make that business grow, thrive, and just simply run. Even down to how to take the bins out in the office, tiny little things like that. If everything in the business is systemized, then you're going to have less sort of challenges. And if the system doesn't work as well as it should, fix the system and improve the system, I guess. That's how we kind of see a good business working. Anyone should be able to walk into the business and know what to do. And that's why like recruiting is really interesting as well when you've got a systemized business, because then you don't necessarily have to recruit based on talent. You can actually just hire really nice people who fit the culture of your business. And if you've got really good systems that they can understand and they know how to do their job, then you've got really nice people who are doing the job really well. And I think a lot of like employers point finger at their team members and say, oh, they've done that wrong, they've done that wrong. And usually it's not a people error, it's a systems error. Have you really told that person how to do that? Have you communicated with them? Your communication is only as good as the response you get. So if your team aren't doing what you want them to do, you need to take a step back and think, have I communicated that properly? Do they really know the system inside out? So that wasn't really a definition, but that's kind of like... That
was a good answer. I think your dad will be proud of that one. Yeah, I think he'd know that he's taught you in the right way. So hope you like that one, Dad. But yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And I think where a lot of potentially business owners get confused is systemizing. Your mind, or my mind, used to gravitate towards it. So it sounds like technology and computers and complicated stuff. But like you say, it can be simple as a checklist on a piece of paper. It's got nothing to do with, technology or computers. Like you say, if somebody walks into the business, they can pick up a manual and they know how to do it. So no, great answer.
Thanks.
So you're going on your travels in 8 weeks. You've systemized your businesses so you can run them effectively and efficiently and live out the lifestyle that you've wanted to live for a long time. What's next?
After traveling, you mean? So like I say, I've got a 10-year plan, which will change, I'm sure, and it has changed since Louis and I created it. It's slightly shifted in some areas. But I mean, when we come back, the plan is to invest in more property, continue to grow Avocardo, which is our sustainable greetings card company, continue to grow our fulfilment business. I'll probably stop my little side hustle, which is I can't believe I just said that because I hate that phrase. But I'll probably stop my little sort of side freelancing job that I do, where I work with businesses on their Instagram and influencer marketing. That'll probably die down at that point because I can't do everything, I guess. So yeah, it'll just be a lot of focus on investing, growing our businesses, and probably more travel, to be honest, because once you get the bug, I mean, I've already got it, and I'm about to go off for a year and do even more. So I'm sure we'll always integrate that into our lives as well.
Amazing, amazing. And if you could go back to day one, so the Chloe that's finished uni and she's just about to join her dad in the family businesses, and knowing what you know now, which is always easy with hindsight, and you could just pass on one piece of advice that you think would see her, serve her best, what would that one piece of advice be?
Good question. I'd probably say to trust yourself. So you know how we all get into these moments of worry and doubt and oh, are things really going to go well, or I'm going to have enough money this month? When I was younger, I used to have those sorts of worries sometimes, and I'm here now, I'm nearly 26, and it's okay, it's been fine, everything's gone fine, I'm doing okay. And I guess I would have just said to trust myself that I will handle whatever comes my way, and nothing's gonna be bad enough to kind of ruin your dreams. You might have to go down a different path, but just believe in yourself and trust yourself, and don't let worry and anxiety kind of take over. I suppose that would be the advice that I would give to myself.
Nice, a great bit of advice there. And thinking to other people who are in a similar situation, they've finished their education, they're trying to figure out what's the next step for them. Do they join the family business? Do they go and join another business to gain experience elsewhere and sort of carve their own journey? Or do they start something for themselves? Knowing where you are now and all that you've achieved from you having joined the family business, what advice would you give to somebody who's on the fence about whether to do it or not?
I would say to them, I mean, it really always will depend on who that person is and
Sure.
what relationship they've got with their family and what their personal goals are, and what the dynamic would be like and all those sorts of things. But I would say in any decision making that you've got in life, that you should do what makes you happy, really. And is this going to help me to get to where I want to be? And if the answer is yes to both of those two things, then give it a go. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? What my dad calls it, a dabbler. I've dabbled in a few different things in the past 4 years, and I've tried different little businesses and tried little different projects and things, and not all of them have worked. But I think people previously have frowned upon people who dabble and try different things, and maybe judge people and think, why can't you just stick to one thing or whatever? But I think now it's becoming more acceptable to have your fingers in multiple pies, if you like, whatever the phrase is, or have your eggs in multiple baskets and try lots of different things. And I think it's really becoming an acceptable thing to do. So give it a go, and if it doesn't work out, there'll be something else. There'll always be something else. And especially if you're young and you're in your early 20s or whatever, I mean, you've got so much, we've all got so much time ahead of us, so many different opportunities that are going to come up. So yeah, I guess if it serves you and if it helps you to get to where you're gonna, if where you want to be, and if it's going to make you happy, then why not give it a go? Is the advice that I would say.
Very well put. I'm sure that will serve people very well, taking that on board, most definitely. My final tricky-ish question before we get on to finding out more about where we can follow you online and follow your journeys around the world, which I'm sure are going to be some really interesting videos and shares there. If you could, and we've talked about systemizing a lot already, so you might have already answered the question, but for somebody that's joined the family business and has now risen to a position of leadership, typically in family businesses, especially for those that have been around for a long time, they've always done things a certain way, and it's because of that, it's a struggle to take it to that next level. For a a family business owner, entrepreneur, CEO, leader of the next generation, whether it's second, third, fourth, or fifth, for those that are looking for what is it that I need to do to take it to the next level that we're not already doing, what would you advise to them as the first place to look?
So somebody's working in a family business.
Yeah, it's already achieved a certain level of success and they're now looking to take it to that next level.
Possibly like plateaued a bit, or yeah, okay. Get a coach.
Haha, good answer.
You might like that answer, yeah. It's a genuine answer that I would honestly give, because I think, like, if you look at all the most successful people in the world, nobody's done it by themselves or without a mentor or some guidance or reading thousands of books or going to loads of seminars. You don't just wake up a super successful person one day. My dad describes it as like going through a jungle, and you can either go through a jungle with your little butter knife and cut down every tree yourself and try and guide yourself through and find your own path, or you can follow somebody else down their path down the jungle, somebody who's had a big machete and they've already cut it all down. And kind of the smart thing to do is to find somebody who is going to be able to guide you through those challenges of business and is going to be able to hold you accountable and help you and point you in the right direction of where you might need to learn new things, and just keep you like on top of your game, really. Having a coach is such an amazing thing. I've got a coach for my personal life and I've got a coach for my business life, and I've previously had a coach for my fitness as well, because they were all areas that I wanted to improve, and I'm just Chloe and I only know as much as I know. So obviously working with somebody who's more knowledgeable or is going to hold you accountable is going to help you get to that next level. And that is 100% the advice that I would give to any business owner, whether it's a family business or not. If you reach a plateau, go and work with somebody who's going to help you get to the next level, because the answers probably, are out there somewhere, but it's a lot quicker and a lot easier to work with somebody who's going to be able to guide you to those.
Yeah, great answer. I'm the same with you as well. The reason I do this is because I've always had my own coach and I know the difference that it makes, and I can look back at my life and see through the stages of where I am and how I was feeling at the time of when I had a coach and when I didn't have a coach. And when I look back, all of the career highlights, like you say, I didn't get there on my own. I had somebody who was challenging me, pushing me outside of my comfort zone, holding me to account. So I know how powerful that can be. So I'm most definitely with you on that one. And the last question for today, Chloe, and it's been amazing so far. You've shared some really interesting insights that I'm sure are going to provide a lot of value to a lot of people out there. But for those of us in the audience that do want to continue to follow you and see how your journey goes on, building businesses and globetrotting around the world at the same time, whereabouts can we find you online?
So if you don't mind looking at a little bit of vegan food in between, you can follow me on Instagram, which so I've got a page called Hello Vegan Chloe. So Hello Vegan CHLO. And I do post a lot on there, and it's not just vegan food, but there will be some nice vegan food included in that. And then on LinkedIn, I'm quite active on there, so it's just Chloe Wright on LinkedIn. And I guess potentially Louis and I might be starting a YouTube channel where we're going to share some of our travels and maybe some business and insights too. So if we do start that YouTube channel, I will post it on both of those platforms as well. And if anyone wants to have a look at our business, which is our sustainable greetings card business, where we plant a tree for every card we sell, they're all printed on 100% recycled card. It's Avocardo, but Avocardo.
Nice play on words there, like that. Sorry, I cut you off then. .com was that?
It's .shop.
.shop, avocado.shop. So there you go, everybody, for birthdays, celebrations, bar mitzvahs. If you need a card, it's avocado.shop, and you can do some good in the world at the same time as well. Well, Chloe, that brings the interview to an end. It's been a pleasure having you on the show today. Thank you for being so open and honest. And like I say, you've shared some really great insights there, and I'm sure a lot of people will take benefit from that and help them get to the next level. So wish you the best of luck, and Louis, on your travels, and look forward to seeing how you get on the YouTube video.
Thank you. And thank you so much for having me. It's been really good.
You're welcome. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that one. Another insight-packed interview with another brilliant next generation entrepreneur. So to find out more about Chloe, you can find all of her links to social media platforms, etc. over at the show notes. Just go to nextgenbusinesscoaching.com/Chloe-Wright. NextGen is NXTGEN and Wright is WRIGHT. And a big shout out to Chloe for joining me on the show today, because I know you've got so much to get ready before you go off on your world travels. And genuinely hope both you and Louis have some amazing experiences as you travel the world while still growing your business empire. If you like the episode, please feel free to leave me a 5-star review. Every one of them counts. And if you'd like to send me some feedback or just like to email me and say hello, just send me an email to podcast@nextgenbusinesscoaching.com. Always love to hear from who's listening out there. Thanks for listening. Make sure you subscribe wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And I look forward to catching up with you on the next episode of The Next Gen Show.